Hi, it's George here. Today we're going to look at a couple of lead guitar techniques. You may be learning a solo from a book or a YouTube video or whatever it may be, and you've heard or read the phrase hammer on and pull off, and you're unsure of what they even mean and how do you do them on the guitar. So today we're going to look at what a hammer on and pull off is, how to do it, and some little practice exercises that you can use to help you develop the technique. So we'll start with a hammer on. A hammer on is a technique of sounding a low note with a pluck or a pick or a strum, whatever it may be, then using the left hand to physically hammer on to the fretboards to sound a higher note. So for example, pluck a lower note, hammer on to sound a higher note. So pluck, hammer, pluck, hammer. Not an easy technique, and it won't be something that you'll do overnight, so you need to develop a bit of strength and dexterity. But pluck and physically hammer your finger down onto the guitar in the same place as if you would fret the string to pluck it, but you hammer on. So for practice, to get your hammer-ons to refine the technique, if you pick the minor pentatonic scale, a good starting point, the scale that everybody begins with, we're in the key of A today, so we're going to start on 5th fret, bottom E, 6th string as it's known. So for the lowest note we're going to pluck, and for the next note on the same string, hammer. Then we move down to A string, same thing, pluck, hammer. So D, pluck, hammer, G, pluck, hammer, B, hammer, top E. Okay, so all together that sounds like this. Take it nice and slow, nice and steady. Be more concerned about getting the hammer on to be nice and even, so you don't end up with a difference in volume between the plucked note and the hammered on note. So you don't get, or should more be. It's more indistinguishable between the two in terms of volume. Nice and slow. Slow and steady wins the race with anything to do with guitar and techniques and learning things for a start. So that's a hammer on. Now a pull off is a reverse of a hammer on. You pluck or pick or strike the higher note of the 2, 3, 4 notes, whatever it may be, and you pull your finger off of the fretboard and string to sound the lower note. Now when you do this, it's important that you fret both notes simultaneously, because what happens is if you go to do a pull off and that lower note isn't ready to go, you won't hear the two notes, you'll hear one note and a fluffed note at the end. So fret the two together, get them ready to go. Pluck, pull off, pluck, pull off. Now the technique of a pull off, you're going to actually physically pull your finger off the string. It's not an action of lifting off like that. It's actually an action of pulling off, pulling down. It's that in exaggeration. It's pulling your finger literally off the string so you can hear the note sounded that's going to come after it. Which is reasonably easy on top E because we haven't got anything below us to worry about. But once you start getting onto any other string, you're always going to have a string that's below you, which could potentially cause a problem of when you're pulling off and you're going to accidentally catch all of the strings that are below. Now the technique I use to get around this is twofold really. The finger that's fretting the lower note of the two, I lay flat, so it's muting all the strings that are below. So E string and B string, muted, G string is the fretted, that's the note that I want to hear next. And the other thing I do, the higher finger that's doing the pulling off, when I've finished the pull off, I make sure that that finger comes to rest on the string below. So it doesn't kind of pull off and keep right out of the way such as that. It's literally a tiny pull off motion such as that. It comes to rest on the string below. In this case we're coming to rest on B string from a pull off on G string. So practice for your pull offs. Again, same scale, minor pentatonic. We're going to start on top E this time. We're going to pluck the high note and pull off to the lower note. So pluck 8, pull off to 5. B string, same. Pluck 8, pull off to 5. G string, 7 to 5, D string 7 to 5, A string 7, bottom E, A, bottom. So all together that sounds like this. Nice and even. So you can rotate those two things we've just spoke about. The hammer-ons, you can ascend in a hammer-on, then immediately descend in pull-offs. So you're doing the thing as a great big round. So you hammer on, and then you pull off, then you hammer on, then you pull off. And once you kind of grasp the idea of that, you can then do it in groups of 3 strings. So for example, you start off on bottom E string, and we're going to do hammer-ons on E string, A string, and D string, still in the same minor pentatonic scale. So we get, then we descend 1 string back to A, and we do 3 more strings. Come back 1, come back 1 more. So all together that sounds like this. So they are with hammer-ons. I can do the exact same thing with pull-offs. So you start on top E again, you pull off 3 strings, so you go E string, B string, G string, then you come back 1 to B, G, D, etc, etc, etc. Now with these new techniques, and with anything to do with guitars, to be quite honest, speed is way, way down the list. It's more about refining the technique and making sure that you're pressing in the right place, that you're hammering on with enough force so you get the 2 notes at the same volume, you're hammering on it in the right place in the fret, on the right string, yada yada. There's a lot to think about, but be more concerned with the technique than trying to immediately do it at 1,000 miles an hour, which is the kind of common thing that most people want to do. But if you do the technique first, then the speed will come over time. That's the easy part, to be quite honest. So I hope that's given you some ideas what a hammer-on and what a pull-off are, and how to do them, and some little practice exercises you can use. A step on from that, once you've mastered the technique of the hammer-on and the pull-off, start to incorporate them in your solos and phrases when you're improvising. For example, a little phrase that you will maybe pick all of the notes of. Incorporate some hammer-ons and pull-offs into that phrase. So we get hammer-on, hammer-on, pull-off, pick. So just real simple, short little phrases that you can use these hammer-ons and pull-offs in. So again, enjoy, take your time. It's not a technique that will come overnight, as I said before. Slow and steady wins the race, but I hope that's helped you somewhat with your hammer-ons and pull-offs, and I'll see you next time.